Hello. Hello, everyone. And a very warm welcome from Moscow, Russia AI meetups. My name is Dmitry Filatov, and I am a local ambassador for Pi and AI meetups hosted in collaboration with the Deep Learning AI. We are now starting the first Pi and AI meetup in Moscow, Russia, and I'm absolutely excited that Moscow, like many other cities around the world, is welcoming deep learners and those who are interested in artificial intelligence. We really appreciate that you are taking some time for this event today. And could you please write in the chat where are you from, what is your geography, so that we can better understand our audience, please. Okay, that's quite impressive. Welcome everyone one more time. So before I say a couple of words about deep learning AI, about Pi and AI meetups and our general agenda, let me introduce our speaker today, Darья Dzябура. Darьya is an associate professor of marketing at Nью-Йоркском School in Moscow, Russia. The focus of her research is developing machine learning methods for problems faced by those who are working in marketing. Hello, Darьya. Thank you so much for joining us today and for providing this opportunity to learn more about application of artificial intelligence in real life.
Hello, thank you. So is it my turn or?
No, just we see that many people are here from different parts of the world. I expected people from Moscow, but we see Indonesia and other far places. So it's really great. It's an international event, and we will proceed with that. So deep learning AI and Pi and AI meetups. What is this all about? The deep learning AI is an artificial intelligence education company developing the global community of AI talent. It was founded by Andrew Ng, who is a recognized expert in machine learning and AI. But what is so exciting about deep learning AI? Those free online courses hosted on Coursera platform helped a huge amount of people to understand and learn how to apply methods of machine learning and deep learning algorithms for real-life practical cases. Pi and AI meetups featured by deep learning help people communicate, explore, and share ideas within a broad field of artificial intelligence. The purpose of Moscow, Russia AI meetups is to integrate Moscow into the worldwide deep learning community and to provide space for experience sharing and exchange of opinions on AI topics, both on local and on international scale. Before I pass the word to Darьya, just a couple of housekeeping issues. First of all, this event is being recorded, and there will be a link to the YouTube channel where this video will be uploaded in 2 or 3 business days. Unfortunately, due to limitations of our broadcasting capacity, we are not able to stream a welcome video from Andrew Ng, but you will be able to, you will find this video also at our YouTube channel right after this event. Post-event survey. Please leave a feedback after the event. The link for the survey will be provided by the deep learning AI via the email. So, and those who will complete this post-event survey will receive a promo, a code for 50% discount for first month subscription to any of the learning courses on Coursera online platform. Questions and Q&A session. Please write your questions to the chat and use either English or Russian. We will do our best to answer as many as possible at the Q&A session after Darьya's talk. And finally, if you have any unanswered questions or inquiries, please feel free to email me at info@akirino.com, and I will share this email address in the chat later. So that's it for introductions and general info. Today's our topic it's monitoring consumer brand perceptions using a deep learning framework, insights for brand strategy. Darья Dzябура will walk us through the process of applying a deep learning framework to monitor how consumers are portraying firm brands on social media and how gained insights can help firms examine the effectiveness of their positioning strategies. We will share Darya's article in Marketing Science Journal. We will share it in the chat, and also we will provide the link to resources on GitHub. Darya, with that, I will turn over to you now.
Great. Okay, so I'll share my screen and hopefully everything works here. So before you mute yourself, can you see my screen? Dmitry?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay, great. So thank you all very much for joining. It's very exciting to see people from all different parts of the globe. We see from California all the way to Indonesia. So thank you for waking up, those of you in California, and staying up, those of you, east of here. So I'm very excited to be the first in this series of meetups in Moscow. Thank you very much to Dmitry for organizing this and inviting me to speak and present some of my work here. So as you mentioned, I'm a marketing professor. I work at the intersection of sort of marketing, economics, machine learning, and specifically today, I want to share a couple of projects that my co-authors and I've worked on over the past few years, all relating to how we measure how consumers portray and perceive brands, one using sort of social media and one using a more direct elicitation approach, but both tied to visual content. Okay, so I know we have a really broad spectrum here today. There are some people who are sort of more on the marketing side of the spectrum, who probably know some of the basic things about branding, but might be more unfamiliar with the machine learning side of things, and some more classic machine learning folks who, hopefully we'll learn something about marketing today. So I'll try to sort of make this accessible and interesting to both audiences, and hopefully some of you at the intersection as well. So hopefully, everybody will learn something new and relevant today. Okay, so let's start. And I will try to finish by, I will wrap up by 8 p.m. Moscow time, which is 45 minutes from now, and then we'll do Q&A after that. And during the talk, maybe type your questions into the chat. So once we go to Q&A, Dmitry can kind of, group them by topic and maybe ask me then. Okay, so measuring consumer brand perceptions. So this is kind of one of the one of the holy grails in marketing is understanding how consumers perceive a brand, okay, and what consumers associate with a brand. Okay, so this is a major goal for brand managers, and I want to give you a little bit of background on kind of branding theory, kind of branding 101. That again, if you work as a brand manager or anything related to branding, I'm sure you know this. But it'll be relevant sort of going forward to see why we're looking at these problems. Okay, and I'll show you, as I mentioned, two approaches, one using social media monitoring and one using this direct elicitation technique. Okay, so this is the plan to cover in the next 45 minutes. We'll see how much we get through. So first, I want to just give you a little bit of background. I'll sort of summarize branding theory for you in 2 minutes. And it'll sort of help you see why the measurements in this field are so hard. Then I'll show you sort of study one, which is kind of the focus of the paper that we're sharing, which is listening in to user-generated content. So this is content posted by users on social media. And study 2, which is a work in progress, which I want to sort of share with you some preliminary results, in which we actually asked participants to create a collage of images. So rather than scraping these images from social media, we're going to ask people to generate some images that they would associate with the brand. Okay. Okay. So branding. Branding is is a very central construct in marketing. Sort of most people, or at least for many years, most people who worked in marketing, many of them worked as brand managers. Okay. So what is a brand? Formally, a brand, here we go, is a name, term, sign, symbol, or design, or a combination of them intended to identify goods or services of one seller and differentiate them from other sellers. Okay, so something that sets one firm apart from other firms. Okay, so that's sort of the formal definition, some kind of logos, colors, schemes, names, and so on that define and separate a brand. Okay. And to consumers, what is a brand in consumer mind? So what kind of consumer behavior theory tells us what is a brand in a consumer's mind? It's a set of associations, okay? So when you think of the brand Adidas, or you think of the brand Mercedes, or you think of the brand Colgate, okay? What are kind of images, emotions, attitudes, what comes to mind when you think of the brand, okay? And the branding theory says that your job as a brand manager, okay, as the brand manager of Crest or Colgate, is to manage these sets of associations. So your job is to make sure that when people hear or see this brand, a certain set of associations comes to mind. Okay, and then I'll tell you in a minute sort of how we do that, but that is the role of a brand manager. Okay, so. Very quickly, why brands have become so central. So to consumers, brands can serve as a signal of information or quality, right? So for example, if you're making a donation, you might be more willing to make it through a reputable brand than through an unknown charity, okay? Allows for self-expression, right? So consumers display certain brands to signal to peers something about themselves. And create fluency or accessibility. So if I know I need a volleyball, I might visit a Stockmaster store, and I know that I expect a certain level of service and a certain assortment there, right? So it sort of creates this fluency, makes it easier for consumers to make choices. Okay, so these are sort of benefits to consumers. Why do firms like the brand? Well, the most important reason is that it allows them to charge a price premium over an equivalent unbranded good. Okay, so in another kind of subfield of branding studies the monetary value of a brand. So like this brand Nurofen, which is a brand of ibuprofen, what is a dollar or euro or ruble, whatever, value of this brand? And one way to get at that is actually look at consumer willingness to pay for Nurofen ibuprofen versus an unbranded or a generic brand ibuprofen. Okay, so that allows you to get at what is. By the way, so in marketing we think about brands as assets. Okay, so brands are owned, brands can be bought and sold, brands need to be developed just like any other asset, like a building or human capital. Okay, brands also create barriers to entry. So once you've established yourself as a brand in a certain area, it's harder for competitors to enter. Leverage in the distribution channel, we can sort of skip that. But importantly, once you establish a good brand, you are able to leverage that brand to extend it in other product categories. So for example, Honda is a car brand, right? And they extended, so this is their Honda lawnmower and Honda motorcycles. So they've established themselves as a reliable, high quality economy brand, and they can then extend to other categories. Okay. So as I said, your goal as a brand manager is to manage what comes to consumers' mind when they think of the brand. Okay. So this is a slide, maybe a little bit outdated at this point, but of associations with McDonald's. So when consumers, and this is American consumers, when they think of McDonald's, what is it that comes to mind? You know, so for a while they had this Ronald McDonald clown, which they did a lot of charity work with Ronald McDonald going to visit sick children in hospitals and so on, and as an entertainer. French fries, Happy Meals, for some families, it's sort of going to McDonald's on Friday after school with their parents. After a while, they sort of had this negative association, which became, like, McDonald's kind of became this poster child, right, of unhealthy eating. I'm not really clear why. McDonald's and Coca-Cola somehow, sort of more so than other fast food brands, and more so than other drinks. So sort of unhealthy eating became the equivalent of McDonald's. Yeah. And the question is for brand manager again, how you manage these associations. So, you know, if you want to create an association, you can sort of see intuitively that, you know, you want to sponsor the right events, you want to advertise the brand in accordance with that thing. But if you have a negative association, which is kind of coming in externally, then what do you do? How do you get rid of it? Right. So one reaction, so one reaction was sort of to introduce a healthier menu to try to actually change this perception that McDonald's is all about unhealthy. Okay. Quickly, where do brand associations come from? And they can be either company generated, coming from the product, the packaging of the product, of course, the company advertising, how the stores look, right? So, for example, if you walk into an Apple store or an Adidas store, think about the way that people are dressed, think about the type of music that's playing in the store, the interior design of the store, all these things, every way in which the company communicates with the customer is sort of leading to certain brand perceptions associations, okay? Or non-company generated. So these are sort of things we have to manage, personal experiences, peer experiences, news stories, and so on. Okay. So again, the goal, what a good brand manager will do is create strong associations. So the stronger the brand, the stronger and more distinctive are these associations. And the theory says, this is very important, that if a negative brand event happens, like there's some bad press about your brand, if your existing associations are strong, okay, this negative news hurts you less, because people already have certain sets of associations. But if the existing associations are kind of mixed or weak, or people don't really associate anything with your brand, when they see a piece of bad press, or they have a negative experience with your brand, that kind of starts to dominate, okay? So the preemptive, what we want to do is create really strong associations, so in case there's any negative experience, these strong associations kind of protect you, okay? And reactively, when this bad thing has already occurred to you, what do? You strengthen these other associations. Okay, so if McDonald's becomes the poster child for unhealthy eating, what can we do? More charity work, more fun with your family, right? So anything other than, anything else will help to deter from this negative. Okay, so that was sort of, again, branding theory for you in 5 minutes. So that kind of motivates why we care so much about this construct of brand associations. Okay, so we want to know when a consumer sees the brand New Economic School or deep learning.ai, what comes to mind? Okay, so measuring these associations is very hard, as it turns out. So I'll show you sort of what we can do, and I'll show you what we propose here. And there are kind of two types of questions. A qualitative question, which is what do consumers associate my brand with? And then ideally, we'd also like to get at the quantitative question, which is which of these associations are sort of relatively stronger or weaker. So we want to quantify this somehow. Right, so, okay. Okay, so the classic way of measuring brand associations is using surveys. And surveys, so there's a huge survey which is done by Young and Rubicam's, which is a brand consulting company called Brand Asset Evaluator, which basically sends out a survey to consumers with something like 300 brands 300 to 400 brands, and about 50 different adjectives. So here are some of the adjectives. This is actually from a slightly different paper. So in this survey, people are asked, if the brand were a person, okay, what kind of person would they be? Yeah? And so here, so this is from a 1997 paper in the Journal of Consumer Research. And this is sort of one of the most widely used scales for brand measurement, called the brand personality scale. You can sort of stare at these for a few minutes. So you can see they're broken down into 5 factors having to do with sincerity. So is the brand a sincere brand? And again, these are kind of what we call horizontal attributes rather than vertical attributes. So these are, you may want to be perceived as a down-to-earth, small-town, honest, sincere brand, or you may not, right? So, for example, Prada, for example, probably does not want to be perceived as sort of sincere and friendly. They kind of want to be a little bit removed and sophisticated, right? That's the sophistication factor, which is this one over here, number 4. Excitement, this factor is everything having to do with competence. So reliable, hardworking, intelligent, technical, corporate, and so on. Sophistication and ruggedness. So probably some of you are learning some GRE words today. Okay. So the way, again, so they predefine these attributes, and then they kind of map all the brands into this attribute space. So we have surveys. These are national surveys that sort of do a really wide panel. And it's very expensive. So this brand asset evaluator sells this data for a lot of money. And this is going to be one of our benchmarks. So in our data, we're going to see to what extent the social media mind perceptions correlate with these. Okay. So the alternative that I'm going to talk about is the social media mining, which is a very active area of research. Most work, so companies as well as academics have sort of started doing this. Counting things, of course, as the number of mentions of the brand, co-occurrence. So with what other brands does my brand occur? Very nice paper that extracts customer needs from user-generated content reviews. So most of the work up to this point has focused on text mining. Okay, so they'll do things like, the brand Toyota, how often does it co-occur with the word fishing? Okay, so people might associate Toyota with going fishing. So they focus on text. And if you look at this work, they're mostly looking for functional attributes, right? So things like the battery life is not good, or, Toyota, my transmission needs something, right? So they're looking at functional attributes. What we're going to look at are these intangible brand attributes. So for example, this is the brand Eddie Bauer, which is an American brand that sells sort of hiking gear and clothing. I think the Russian equivalent would probably be like Outventure or something like that. Okay, so this is the sort of pictures that you see on Instagram featuring the hashtag Eddie Bauer. These are pictures hashtag with the brand name Prada. So so something we might want to measure if Eddie Bauer signal ruggedness, right? So is that a more rugged brand? And is this a more glamorous brand, right? And can we actually see that in these photos that people tag on social media? Okay, so here's the basic approach. We're going to train image classifiers for brand attributes, and we're going to look at 4, and I'll tell you in a minute how we do that, where the training data comes from. So we're going to train classifiers for brand attributes. The first one is fun. Okay, and again, remember so a brand may want to be fun, or it may want to be serious. So fun as opposed to serious, healthy as opposed to unhealthy, glamorous. It turns out the antonym for glamorous is drab. I didn't know that. And rugged. And it turns out that the antonym for rugged is gentle. And you'll see in a minute why. So the reason we need the antonyms here is to get some negative instances for our training set. Okay. So then we're gonna train the classifiers separately, apply these classifiers to Instagram posts tagged with the hashtag of the brand. And we're actually also going to do the same thing to the company, to the images on the company Instagram accounts. And we're going to sort of compare the percentage classified positive for this brand versus other brands. Okay, And we'll see that it's generally consistent with some survey-based metrics, but we see some exceptions. So it's sort of interesting. So, all right. So image classification, and I'll sort of run through this. Again, I know there are probably some people in the audience who know very well how image classification works and others not. So let me try to give a fairly intuitive explanation. So we have an image here, and we want to know a few binary questions, right? Does this image look rugged? Yes or no? Yeah? Does this image look glamorous? Yes or no? Okay. So I have you know, the way that you would approach this problem is you would first need a large set of images which you know that these images are rugged and these images are not rugged. Okay. And these images are glamorous and these images are not glamorous. And then for a new image, so you're going to train an algorithm that given a new image will decide whether it is rugged or not, glamorous or not, fun or not, and so on. Okay. So we're going to first need, two things. One is this image, well, this is called training data, images labeled with brand attributes, and an algorithm that maps these images to these attributes. Okay. So where do we get a very large set of images that we know for sure are glamorous, and that we know for sure are not glamorous? And so this is actually a big question. So the reason that you know, most machine learning algorithms in image classification has focused on a problem called object detection. So the object detection problem is like, here, given an image, is this a picture of a dog or a tree, okay, or of a nuclear submarine? Yeah? So the reason is because most of these algorithms are written by engineers who are trying to solve engineering problems, like you know, like self-driving cars and so on. Yeah? So and so where do they get their training data? So it was a combined effort of many tech firms, Google and Facebook and others, who created a data set of a million some images called the ImageNet database, where humans went in and labeled, you know, this is a picture of a tree, and this is a picture of a house, and this is a picture of a dog. Okay, but there isn't a marketing data set which has images labeled with brand attributes. Okay, so what we do, is go to Flickr, which is a photo sharing platform on which people tag images, okay, tag photographs. And we're going to search Flickr for all of our words. So here we took a screenshot. So this is a search for the word rugged. Okay, so rugged removes, you know, returns. Basically, if you didn't know the word rugged, I actually didn't know until I worked on this project. So images of ruggedness are these kinds of landscapes, kind of stony mountains, and bearded men. Okay, so that's visually, that's what ruggedness means. So Flickr is going to give us, so we're going to search, we're going to query on Flickr the attribute like healthy, and then the antonym of the word, unhealthy. Okay, and that is going to give us positive training data and negative training data. Okay, so for example, we have glamorous and drab. Apparently, again, this is the antonym of glamorous. Healthy versus unhealthy, rugged versus gentle, fun versus dull. If you just look at these example images, you can see there are certain visual elements that they have. So gentle images have a little bit less contrast than rugged images. They have more rounded lines, more curves, whereas rugged images have more jagged lines and more contrast. Fun is going to have more different colors. So we also tried the approach of trying to sort of, well, it's coming up. So, okay, and then if you think about the image problem, as opposed to, let's say, a text classification problem, it's very, very unstructured. So when people talk about unstructured data, they talk about images and text, right? But images are actually much more unstructured, because if you think about text, your basic unit of data, your basic unit of analysis is a word, okay? Well, words have meaning. Words can be grouped by topic. Words have positive and negative valence. Words have emotional content. We have dictionaries for all that. With images, your basic unit of analysis is a pixel, which has no meaning by itself.
Darya, can I ask a question before we go deeper into the data structures? So how much time did you spend on your data set, which you collected from Flickr? And so how much time did you spend making it useful for further steps?
Not that much time. I mean, actually, it took some time to sort of figure out where we're going to get training data for this. But once, so the Flickr search engine is pretty good. So once you query it, you download, then you sort of write a script that downloads the first 2,000 images that are returned, and after that, it's pretty good. We did have an RA clean some of them to make sure that they're all relevant, but RAs can be paralleled out, so it's not really that much of our time. So this part is not bad. I mean, I think what was challenging in this project is the conceptual aspects of figuring out what exactly we can do with this data. When I had a student my PhD student wanted to do this project, and initially I thought, you're crazy. There's nothing in those images. It's just some stupid selfies, that people are posting on Instagram. There's no meaning. There's no brand perception. But I'll show you the results. It's amazing that it actually correlates very strongly with the survey metrics. Yeah.
And this is the first research in marketing, or maybe one of the first researches which used a new approach, the machine learning or deep learning approach.
So this is the first paper, at least academic paper. It's possible, that the companies are doing something similar. We never know what's going on behind the scenes. This is the first paper that we've seen that extracts, that sort of connects these intangible brand attributes, like these brand personality attributes, to images. And I think this field there's a lot more research to be done here. So this field is kind of dominated by designers who have a ton of intuition about like what makes an image. Like if I come to an advertising agency, right, and I say, draw me something that's going to look rugged. I want a brand that's very masculine and Western and rugged. Draw me something, and they do. And so I was a professor at NYU at the time, and NYU has one of the best design schools in the country, probably in the world, actually. So we went to this design school, and many of the faculty in the design school actually have an advertising agency. And we asked them, like, how does it work? Do you have like a dictionary? Is there like a certain color of, blue is rugged and, orange is and they said, yes, there's a dictionary. So we read all these design books, and there are these guidelines where vertical lines are strong and powerful, and horizontal lines are calm and peaceful, and diagonal lines signal motion, and curvy lines are feminine, and sharp corners are masculine, and red is exciting, and blue is calming. And it's all intuitive based. So there's nothing empirical. There's nothing really based on data where we analyze, thousands of images and indeed show that, blue is calmer than red. So I think this is a very rich.
That's the most interesting part. When I read your article and when you look at the research, I really, it was the concept of how you converted all these empirical things into data after that. It's really.
I think it's, again, I think this is just the tip of the iceberg. I think there's a lot more to be done as we sort of, and again, fortunately, these deep learning tools, and another, actually, I'll show you, like, you don't even need deep learning. You can get pretty far with just attributes like color that are a little bit more intuitive for a human to understand. So, okay, so let's go on. So, again, we're going to try two approaches. I'm going a little bit slower than I planned, so let's go here. So again, there are two ways you can analyze an image. One is this deep learning, the deep learning network, which is blowing everything out of the water in terms of performance, in terms of predictive accuracy. And what it does is basically learn a highly complicated nonlinear function of the raw data. Okay, so it's just layers and layers of transformations of the pixels until and ultimately produces the result. So this approach, this is sort of what people call the black box approach, because it doesn't tell us anything. It will give us a good prediction. So here is an image. It will tell you the probability with which this image is glamorous. Okay. It will not tell us anything about why this image is glamorous, right? Is it because there's a woman in it, or is it because there's a lot of pink in the image, or because the contrast is high? So we will not know anything like that, but we will have a very accurate prediction. And then we have, I called it the support vector machine approach. It's actually more this handcrafting features. So we generated these features, extracted these features like the color histograms from the images, like the percentage of the color green in the picture, shapes, so lines, corners, orientation of the lines, sort of percentage of lines that are sort of at different angles from the horizontal, and so on, and then texture. So these are, you know, whether the image is kind of smooth or there's kind of a lot of texture going on in the image. You know, jumping ahead, this doesn't work as well. It gives you some predictions, but it's not going to work as well as the deep learning model. I'm going to skip through this stuff. So with the best models that we have, we're able to achieve pretty high accuracy. So remember, the data sets are balanced. So about half of the images in the test set are, you know, glamorous, half are not glamorous, half are rugged, half are not. So we're getting accuracy here of about 90%, which is high. So for this difficult of a task, simply because, and remember, there's going to be a limitation here, because some images, it's really hard to tell, even for a human, whether, you know, it's fun or not. So this is a much harder task than the object detection task, right? Like telling a cup from a sailboat is a lot easier, again, just for a human, than telling something glamorous from not glamorous. So these are pretty high accuracy numbers, and these are, let me see. So ultimately, the approach we use, so it is a convolutional neural network, fine-tuned from a pre-trained neural network from this ImageNet model from 2012, which was pre-trained for object classification, and then sort of what you do is called transfer learning, which is you take an existing neural network and you sort of fine-tune your parameters from there. And what turned out to work the best was, rather than binary classification, so classify every image as glamorous or not, fun or not, is this multi-label model, which is used to pull all the data together and classify every image into one of the 4 categories. Okay, so again, for the sake of time, I think you know, if people who are particularly interested in image classification, there are lots and lots of details in the paper. So, but I'll go on. So, okay, so once we have these classifiers trained, which are you know, fairly accurate, we're going to download 56 brand photographs from Instagram. So we'll scrape the data for 56 brands from 2 categories. First one is apparel, clothing, and the second one is beverage. Okay, and come on. So we're going to download about 2,000 photographs per brand, and for a total of that many, 114,000 photographs total. And we're also going to get firm photos. So what the firm is putting on its own social media page, so we can compare that with what the consumers are putting. Okay. And the third thing we're going to compare with is the survey data. Okay, so that's what the national US brand sample is going to perceives the brand on these dimensions, ruggedness. Okay. So just as an example, to give you an idea of what I mean by this metric, this is going to be the percentage of images classified as positive on this attribute. Okay, so I've got all these images from the brand Jack Daniels. Okay, this is hashtag Jack Daniels. So this is consumer photos tagged with Jack Daniels. What percentage of those 2,000 photographs are classified by our model as being rugged? Okay, and it's about 56%. And then I have this brand Tazo, which is a US brand of tea, kind of high upscale tea brand. And that's about 35% of those are rugged. So that's kind of consistent with our intuition. Jack Daniels positions itself as a very rugged brand. if we look at healthy, then the tea scores higher than the whiskey. Okay, which again, I think it's actually pretty amazing that it's there in the image data, that the images somehow, the images that people post with the hashtag of Tazo, the image looks healthier than the whiskey. So the model doesn't know that this is an alcohol brand and this is a tea brand, but the images somehow look more like the healthy images.
Daria, we have a question from Hector.
Yeah.
And the question is, you gathered the data from Flickr, then applied to Instagram. Why not gather data from Instagram using healthy hashtag, etc.? So the underlying distribution are the same.
That's a very good question. Thank you. So that is a much better, it would have been a much better way of doing it, because you're absolutely right that the Flickr pictures differ from the Instagram pictures, right? The Flickr pictures are more professional photography than the Instagram pictures. The reason is that Instagram doesn't have a good search engine. So if you go to Instagram and you do hashtag healthy, it will give you the most recent post, or at least this is the way it worked at the time we scripted it. It'll give you the most recent posts with the hashtag healthy and with the hashtag Adidas. Whereas Flickr will actually give you the most healthy looking images, right? So that most people have labeled as healthy or however it works. Yeah. So that's why it's actually hard to get a good training sample from Instagram. And there's a lot of junk on Instagram. There's a lot of sellers, a lot of paid posts, whereas Flickr is a much cleaner. So if you just try it now, go to Flickr and search for some of these attributes, you get a much better set. Yeah, so that's the reason. It's a limitation. Ideally, I would have Instagram training data if we're going to apply it to Instagram. Yeah, thank you. So hope that answers that. Okay, so then we're going to never put tables like this on a slide, but I thought you guys could handle it. So we're going to do 3 comparisons, right? We're comparing the consumer. So this is our image-based brand image metric. This is based on the consumer photographs, firm photographs, and this brand asset evaluator. So this is the survey data. Okay, so we're going to look for convergence among these 3 metrics. So generally speaking, they are kind of pointing in the same direction. So most things are significant. All the correlations are positive. Most of them are significant. We can see some of them work better than others. So interestingly, the consumer and firm image metrics are more correlated with each other than the consumers. So interesting. These are 2, the consumer metric and the survey metric. They're both surveying consumers versus the firm. I mean, the firm can really say whatever they want. That doesn't mean that consumers believe it or consumers perceive it that way. Right, but actually, interestingly, the lowest correlation is between the consumer on Instagram and consumer on the survey. So I wanted to show you this breakdown. So this is just for the attribute glamorous, and these are all the firms in the apparel category. So the dark gray bars here, this is what how the firm positions itself, and the light gray bar is how the consumers portray the firm on social media. Yeah. So this is Victoria's Secret. So this is the highest scoring brand on the glamorous aspect in all 3 data sets, and we see that it's sort of off the charts glamorous according to both the firms and the consumers. Interestingly,
gaps are quite impressive. So it's a huge amount of money, I think. If companies don't understand how consumers understand how they appreciate their brands, then it means they're losing money.
Right, and we see, look, there are a lot of gaps here. So like Eddie Bauer and LL Bean. So both of these, if you don't know, these are both of them are kind of these outdoor hiking brands. And the way the company portrays them is very rugged, not at all glamorous. So see, the gray bar is very short, the lowest. But actually what the consumers do is a lot more glamorous. So there's a lot more of the style of actually stylish but wearing Eddie Bauer hiking boots. So one possible application could be kind of discovering a new application, right? So that consumers are using the brand a little bit differently than what the firm does. So I don't have the survey data here, but all the data, so if you look in the paper, in the appendix, we have all the survey consumer and firm photos and firm ratings. So one huge outlier is actually Prada. So Prada is rated as very glamorous by consumers on the survey, but actually around the middle by the images. And if you look at Instagram, hashtag Prada, most of the images are not glamorous. They're very professional. So most of them are office scenes, they're black suits, there are Prada sunglasses, there are people going to an interview. Here's me in my Prada suit. So it's not glamorous, the perception is actually professional. But, whoops, my computer is complaining. If you ask a general sample of US consumers, they perceive Prada to be very glamorous and actually rated above Gucci, Dolce & Gabbana, so other luxury brands. Prada rates higher. Okay, so let's see, I have 8 minutes before I wanted to wrap up. So I want to talk about some shortcomings of this approach, and that kind of leads into this new project. So why do firms like social media data so much? Well, one reason is that it's abundant. So people are putting a lot of information on social media, and it's all free. It's all available. And for a while, it sort of seemed like, you know, this is it. We don't have to do market research anymore. We could just scrape social media accounts, you know, Twitter and whatnot, and we'll have all the consumer insights we need. It's abundant, it's free, it's reliable in the sense that people don't try to fudge their answers like they do in a survey. What they're putting on Twitter, you know, that's kind of their opinion. And it's very rich in the sense that people talk about all sorts of different topics. You're not constrained by these, you know, 50 adjectives that you can ask people in a survey. People sort of talk about, you know, Toyota and going fishing. You know, that's not in any survey scales. Okay, so this is sort of why social media. You know, there are a lot of startups that sell the service of mining social media, and a lot of academic works as well. So here are the cons. One con is that it's limited for many brands. Okay, so if you want to study, you know, Victoria's Secret and Prada, sure, there's a lot of social media. If you want to study Colgate, there's just not a lot of people talking about their toothpaste on Instagram, you know, and their perception of their toothpaste. That's one. The second is that the sample is not controlled. So what I mean is, you know, you're surveying Instagram users, which is a biased sample. You're serving Instagram users who are hashtagging brands, which is an even more biased sample. And it's also people might be strategic on social media, so they're not just explaining their perception of the brand, they are signaling something about themselves to their peers. Right? So what is the solution? So what we want to find is also a way that would measure brand associations, and we also want it to be rich, but we want it to not be biased towards a certain population. It is not biased by these participants or respondents' desire to signal something to their peers. That can work for any brand. That would be scalable, that we would be able to survey a large number of participants and a large number of brands, and ultimately that we can discover new associations, right? So maybe, you know, we're going around measuring fun and glamorous and rugged, but maybe it's about something else. Maybe people associate this brand with a flower field, you know, or with coffee, or with working hard. So we want to be able to discover new attributes. So we want to not sort of strangle the data. We want the data to speak for itself. So what we did with my co-author is we designed this platform which would allow people to search for images and create a collage of images which represents the brand to them. So for example, if you were a respondent in the survey and you would be given the brand L'Oreal, and we would first ask you whether you're familiar with the brand, and then you could search. So on the left here, you would create your collage, and on the right, there's a huge repository of images, which is searchable by keyword, or where you can find images. So for example, you know, you might search this for flowers, and it would find pictures of flowers. So we took this data set from Flickr, as well, this repository of images and the tags by which it can be searched. And we threw out all the images which were tagged with any of our brand names. Okay, so first you would answer this brand familiarity question. You know, how familiar are you with this brand, from not at all familiar to extremely familiar? And then for brands that you said you're familiar with, we would ask you these things. So you would drag the image from this repository in here. You can rotate it, flip it, change it, and we sort of ask them to be creative and create a collage which for them represents their perception of the brand. And I'll show you a few examples. It's really amazing how seriously people take it, right? So this is just a sample that we did. You know, we search for flowers, it returns flowers. So before I wrap up, I just want to show you a few of these. So for example, for L'Oreal, these are collages that people made, and we also asked them to comment on the collage. Okay. So this brand makes me think of pure nature and plants, flower, petals, and water. Like, who knew that L'Oreal, that's the association that comes to mind? I mean, great job to L'Oreal brand management, right? That these are the kind of elegance and beauty. Can't see my slides. Women who are free to be themselves, but yet still sophisticated. Reminds me of my teenage years when I was very focused on my looks. This one is all about peacocks. And these are, I'm trying to move you guys because you're blocking the screen. Okay, so these are a few examples of the Starbucks collage. So what people say is Starbucks, it's mornings, relaxing, and reminds me of hipsters, and it's very expensive. So for this person, it's all about relaxation. See, it's massages and these calm mornings, and it's expensive. For this guy, it's all about work, right? I mean, so these are meeting rooms, lots of meeting rooms, lots of computers. Interestingly, it's very difficult to get people to write something. Like if I just ask you, what's your associations with Starbucks? People write coffee, good coffee, or bad coffee, bad pastries. You know, so sort of it's very hard to get something as rich as that. So we collected, using this this tool, we collected data for 300 national US brands. It's a huge set. So actually, if you know the brand, it's probably in there. From different categories that are listed here, for a total of about almost 5,000 collages. And for the sake of time, I won't walk you through the analysis, but we're able to get very rich sets of associations. And what's cool about this approach is that it's completely unaided. So, you know, so like the deodorant degree is associated with running, water, sports, fitness, and ball sports. So these are not predefined anywhere. These are extracted from the images in an unaided way. All right, so it's around 8 o'clock. So
Daria, can you please maybe say a couple of words about the architecture of the model? What was the model?
Yes, sure.
Because from marketing point of view, we are really, I think, immersed into the problem. We understand now how difficult it is to make all the stuff. But how is going on the algorithm side? So why did you choose this particular network, neural network, and what did you do with it?
Right. So we tried many neural networks. So let me go back to this to the first study. In this second paper, where it's actually going to be a text mining approach. So we're going to use text labeling pre-trained network and use a bunch of text mining to extract topics that occur sort of statistically significantly more frequently than here. Yeah.
And in addition to my question, which is more about mechanics of the how the artificial intelligence helped you to produce results, there is a question from the audience. So Greg Ivanenko asks, what can be a way to convert scores into increase of brand equity and value? So it means that we can already use somehow the results of your research and help companies to achieve more.
Right. So, so the goal again, so with the combined kind of, and I think of this as kind of a stream of research, right, where we're trying to get more accurate measures of brand perceptions and associations. So, sorry, I'm skipping around a lot here. So, let me take Greg's question first. So, I don't have data on brand equity in the study. I do have some data on brand equity. But what I don't have is like evidence for you that, you know, if you take this brand and you start bombarding people with pictures of flowers, it's going to increase it. So one thing we did here is extract positive and negative associations for each category. I'm trying to find the slide. I made a lot of slides. So in the survey, so after people do their collage, they answer a survey about brand, about their brand perception. And one of the things that they rate is high quality. So I perceive the brand to be high quality. Agree or disagree? Okay. So we have the collage, what you associate with the brand, and your high quality rating. So what we see is here, and this is sort of a neat thing, is which associations occur more frequently in collages which are rated as high quality. Okay, and if you do this across all brands, you get very little significance. But if you do this by category, you have sort of some things coming out. So for cars that are perceived to be high quality, what are the associations that occur more frequently? It's alcoholic beverages, ironic, right? Cityscapes, house, fashion, and suit, and then negative. So cars, like things that are associated, in cars that people perceive to be less high quality. So interestingly, we look at this healthy cooking. So that's one of the associations. Okay, like vegetables, I don't know. So healthy cooking is a negative association for cars, but a positive association in the healthy cooking. In the food and dining category. Beach apparently is a positive association in the food and dining category, and you don't want it in the beverage category. So if you think about like the type of beverages that people consume on the beach, and like if beach is what comes to mind, it's sort of cheap beer. So it's not one of these high quality beverage. Like think about a beverage that you would rate as a high quality premium beverage. Beach is not what comes to mind, right? So we have sort of some of these kind of what are the associations that are associated with high quality, which have actually very little to do with the quality of the product. So we propose a lot of applications here. One is sort of creating a prototypical collage, so sort of like creating like a mood board, if you want, that designers can then use for what are some things that should be appearing in our advertising if we want to be perceived as corporate, right? What are some images that you can use to position the brand according to one of the dimensions? And again, and this is the first paper, at least that I know of, that would do that in a quantitative way, right? So if I would say, I want my brand to be sincere, what are the objects, associations, moods, activities that should appear in the advertising? Yeah. Okay, so that's sort of for the application, how do brand managers use this. Let me tell you a little bit about the architecture, the network architecture. I'm not sure actually if I might have deleted this slide. I did. Maybe I pushed it into the. So this is I have slides on the approach that didn't work. So I can just tell you in words. So the network is fine-tuned from this Krzyzewski et al. 2012 network, which is based on the image, which is trained on the ImageNet model. So basically what happens in image mining is that every year there's kind of a bake-off between different networks, and they try to sort of beat each other in terms of predictability. Yeah, time or?
Can I show my screen so I can show
Please.
The architecture from the article, and maybe you can then
okay, thanks.
explain it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I might have had it in backup somewhere. And so the things that we changed are is just the last layer. So let me move you guys over. Thank you very much. Yes. So this is the same architecture as the pre-trained network. The only difference here is you can't see my mouse anymore. It's just in the last layer. It's going to classify the images into one of the four categories. Yeah. So I mean, this architecture is fairly standard. Sort of, there are several convolutional layers, then there's max pooling layers, and then the last layer is a logit.
So you adapted the architecture from Berkeley.
Yes,
model,
yes,
right?
yes. From this network, which was optimized for ImageNet, for object detection, right? So essentially, again, as background, so training these networks is very hard, just in terms of the sort of the sheer number of parameters here, and takes, you know, kind of a million. So ideally, you want like hundreds of thousands or a million images to train it on. In marketing, or you know, us mortals usually never have. I mean, we never have hundreds of thousands of images. We're lucky if we have 2,000 images. So, sort of what people like me do, who are not computer engineers per se, but who are sort of applied, you know, applying these to business problems, is we take a pre-trained network and use those parameters, and use that sort of as a starting point. Change the last layer to be the thing that I want it to be, and sort of fine-tune the network from there, which is sort of use the same, you know, backtrack propagation to move the parameters to be optimal for our setting.
Yeah, and I think it's very interesting and important to stress that you did not develop the model from scratch. So you used the pre-trained model and you modified it, and then you used it for this very specific business case, and then you got a result. So it's really great application, and many people can do this, starting from researchers to practitioners, right?
Right. So this is not, it doesn't require as much, you know, skill, and it doesn't require as much data as it would to train, to set up and train the network architecture itself. So again, most people who are sort of in the applied side, this is what we do.
Okay, so I can return back the screen to you.
So I'm actually all set. Again, I wanted to sort of tell you about the first project, kind of give you a little bit of a teaser of what we're doing with the second direct elicitation project.
Can you start showing your screen, and I will, there is a question from our...
You're viewing, I'm not sure how to do it actually.
Just start showing me.
It's not there, the option is not there, view options.
All right, then.
How about you stop sharing? Maybe it'll give me the option again. And maybe. There we go. Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Share.
Yeah, great. There is a question from, sorry if I misspell it, the name, Poet Larson.
Hey, Poet.
Yeah, did you look at images on Instagram from a specific type of user? There are Instagram pages with professional photographers' accounts that publish high quality photos that may align better with the training set data as compared to your average user.
Yes, I agree. That's a problem. Hi, Poet. Thanks for the question, and thanks for waking up. I know it's early. So I agree. We did not use any of the information on the Instagram account. So not the type of user, not his geolocation, nothing about them. I agree with you. That's a very interesting avenue to look at. Maybe comparing how different types of users pursue the brand. And actually, I think that's a good hypothesis to test. I'm actually not sure whether that's going to be, whether these more professional images are going to more align with what the firm does, and these sort of, you know, again, the rest of us mortals are going to be more representative of what the consumer. And, you know, if we can sort of explain some of that discrepancy that way, that would be very cool. If that could be tested. Yeah. Thanks.
All right. So
by the way, while I'm taking questions, I put this slide here. I didn't get to it, but this is sort of from this the second project. What we're able to get at is, you know, so a family-oriented brand. What are associations on the top line? What you want and what you don't want. Yeah. I'll just leave it there for
Yeah, okay. So if this is all what you want to show us, to tell us about the research, we can start the Q&A session.
Okay, so let me do this wrap up very quickly, so that is sort of what I hope that you'll take away, so that brand perceptions and association are kind of at the core of creating and managing successful brands. Measurement is very hard, and I think this kind of these newly developed, thanks to the machine learning community, tools for image analytics is going to really help us in this domain. So you know, we can look at things like these intangible attributes, like is it a fun brand, a glamorous ad, and so on, and what are the associations? So what is it that comes to people's mind when they see the brand? And so image analytics is going to, I think, be the key here in revolutionizing this these methods. So yeah, thank you, and I can take questions.
Can you see the chat?
I cannot, but I can probably do something about that.
So I can read it for you if you can, but if you can.
Stop share then, and oh my goodness, there's a lot.
As the last question, we have discussed all previous questions. The question, Victor, do you see it? Did you
filters for commercial posts? I'm trying to remember because I mean I remember discussing this and okay, so what we did do is make sure that we screened out sellers. So if in the text, so there's the Instagram image, right, and there's the text that comes with it. So if it has like things like order in any language, WhatsApp number, so things that suggest, you know, to order, call, or right here, we deleted all of those. So we came up with sort of a bunch of keywords, and that did get rid of a lot of posts that were really, you know, like for Prada, there was a lot of just here's a pair of shoes or here's a handbag that the person is just selling. It's just a picture of the handbag, so it's really not the kind of things we want. So we did filter out a lot of that with kind of just scripts. We didn't end up doing manual screen. We did do on a couple of brands, we had some RAs go through and check the brands for whether they're, check the posts for whether they're commercial. And we just did some robustness checks, and it doesn't change the results at all. So once those scripts are in place, that's pretty, that takes care of the big problems. Yeah, thank you. Does that answer?
Yeah, we have answered all questions before Victor. So if anybody else want to ask a question, please write it in the chat.
I think we're exactly on time. It's 8:15, I think so.
Yeah, Hector asked the question.
Yeah, so the code is there on GitHub. Apparently there was some issue with the me saving the wrong link. So, but we will make these, I mean, it is definitely made available. It's just not where I thought it was. So once I figure it out, we'll make it. So what's our channel for communication, Dmitry?
We will upload the video on the YouTube channel, and there is a Facebook page for Moscow, Russia AI meetup. So I will share links both on the YouTube channel and on the Facebook page.
Sure. Sounds great. Yes. Yeah. So the code is pretty well documented. I'm reading this last question. Does the model handle bias towards specific brand that have unique brand themes like more? Well, this is not a bias, right? This is sort of a strategic decision on the part of the firm. So if Victoria's Secret, you know, chooses to use more colorful images in their products or packaging or social media posts, that's sort of that's exactly the brand manager doing his or her job, right? So that's not the bias. I would say that's the effect. That's what we're trying to pick up on are these differences. Yeah. Cool. All right, so shall we wrap up then on time?
Yeah, so now I will share the links in the chat, some beautiful links. What you will find here is once again the link to the Marketing Science Journal, where is the article and the description of the model itself. And later we will send a link, share the link on GitHub. There is a link to the video. Right after the event, you will be able to watch Andrew NG welcome video there. And in 2 or 3 business days, there will be a recording of this meetup. There is a Facebook page of the PI Moscow, Russia, and you will be able to find information there. And there is also my email, info@katerina.com. You can write your questions or requests, so we can communicate further.
Great. Thank you so much. This was fun.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Darya. It was really interesting. And I also want to thank 2 people. It's Sergey Izmalkov. He is associate professor of economics at Nью-Йоркском School for his advice and recommendations. And also Alice Lin, who is event marketing manager at Deep Learning AI, who helped to make all these organizational issues to help this event happen. Thank you everyone who joined us today. This is the first event. We plan to continue this once or twice in 2 months. And have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Have a good evening or day, wherever you are. Bye-bye.